Empathy and trust is super important when you want to create a long-term relationship with your customer and loyalty with your customer. I was amazed by the level of empathy brands were able to deploy, the level of transparency also I think was really interesting to see like brands really saying to their customer, look, it's tough for you, it's tough for us now, let's be in this together, and I think the brands that were the most successful were the brands that were able to work with this candidly, with transparency and with empathy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Fox, Head of Innovation with iAdvise, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another conversation with. Today, we're joined by a key player in the CX world, Contentsquare. Now, for those of you who don't know, Contentsquare empowers brands to build better digital experiences, and they're coming off of a huge May after raising $500 million for their Series E. And their experience analytics platform helps track and visualize billions of digital behaviors, delivering intelligent recommendations that everyone can use to grow revenue. Naturally, loyalty and innovation are surround that, which has really been a large part of why Contentsquare has seen this explosive growth. Now, I am here to talk with the CPO, so one of the key masterminds, chief product officers at Contentsquare, Lucie Buisson. And today we're going to tackle igniting the customer journey with conversation and analytics. Lucie, congrats on a wild year. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the warm introduction.
Yeah, I do my best to flatter you before we get started. Lucie,
Good technique.
talk to me quickly, Lucie, about how you have been personally the past year and a half. We're almost back to normal. It feels that way. But how have you been staying busy?
Actually, it's a very good question because before everything happened, I was traveling a lot. To meet the team. I live in New York. The product team and the R&D team are in Paris and in Tel Aviv. So I was traveling a lot. I was also traveling all the time in the US to meet customer. And so when everything started, I got back, I don't know, 2 days or 3 full days in my weeks. So it felt a bit weird at first, but I think it's been in a way it's been a very interesting period, right? We had to relearn how to work, relearn how to interact with people, how to engage with people. So I would say that I cannot complain. Contentsquare is doing great. Our customer are doing great. I think overall, I was part of the people that were lucky this year. So I don't feel I could complain.
Yeah, it's nice. My last flight was March 12th last year. I still haven't flown.
Oh
Uh,
wow!
I am comfortable now, but I just haven't had a reason to go anywhere yet. And I'm trying to see how long I can extend that streak before I fly again. Because, yeah, like you, it felt like we were in the air constantly.
Exactly, but you're gonna lose all your loyalty points if you continue not flying like this.
Uh, I'm a tough consumer. You can't win me over with loyalty points. Now, Lucie, have you had any memorable digital experiences? Obviously, with so much that's changed in the past year and a half and digital first, I'm interested. Have you experienced anything as a consumer that you thought was particularly interesting?
I would say I experienced very good thing and less good things. I think I was amazed to see how quick all brands have reacted
Mm,
last year, because now it's now we got used to it, but if we all remember, everything happened almost in the night, all stores closed, and I think I was amazed by the level of empathy brands were able to deploy, the level of transparency also I think was really interesting to see like
wow.
brands really saying to their customer, look, it's tough for you, it's tough for us now, let's be in this together, and I think the
Mhm.
brands that were the most successful were the brands that were able to work with this candidly, transparency and with empathy.
Right.
But also, I have to admit, I got a bit pissed off lately by all I don't know, all businesses that put on COVID every sort of things, like if you go into some hotel right now, you would like they would tell you that they are not going to clean your room because it's
Mm,
COVID, and you're
right.
like, I'm not sure I see the link. So
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to see how some brand are trying to play with that or to use that as an excuse, but I would say that it's not the majority. Um, and the second thing is we see that with our client, like how many stuff they tried this year that they never tried before, like live shopping, being able to like much more conversation with their client, like over different tools, over the website. And I think it really like before we had a lot of mental barrier as a consumer but also as brand,
Mm.
and this year was so different. Everything changed so fast that I feel like a lot of those mental barrier were broke, and we were able to test many new things. So for me, this was the most amazing this year, to see how fast consumer reacted and how fast brand iterated, to make the best of this new reality.
Yeah, and right, they were forced to,
Yeah.
right? The brand. So, do you have Lucy, a brand that you've been particularly impressed with? Anything that stand out to you?
But I don't know. I don't think it's new to COVID, but I'm a huge Amazon fan and client, and I think this year they confirm that like that they are a very strong brand and they really care about their customer.
Mm,
What is amazing about Amazon is like every time you have an issue and you start interacting with them, the first thing they say is, "I feel for you." And I recognize that the situation where you are now is not comfortable, is not a good situation, and I'm really sorry for that. And like it feels so normal, to say that, but most brand or a lot of brands, they don't do that, like when you try to complain, and like they're gonna first try to explain that it's not their fault,
right.
and at the end of the day we don't care which fault it is, but being able to say, "I feel for you," I think is very important, and is really
Mm.
like creating a strong connection between the brand and the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yes, we've definitely heard about Amazon here before. Convenience and safety and trust were very big topics for consumers. And yeah, leading with that empathy is important, right?
Yeah,
While naturally you can imagine, um, maybe not every consumer is as I guess I'll say kind to the massive amount of work and logistical work, operational work that Amazon has to pull off to do what they do. But yes, leading with that empathy, I think, is extremely important. We've seen that with our own clients
yeah,
as well. Leading with empathy over conversation
so
is
important. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we are human, and I think we see that also, because we all had to go online, work online, consume online, entertain online. I think we all also feel even more grateful for those moments of empathy, like
Right.
because it's still very important. And I think the other thing that is amazing about Amazon, and they are not the only one. You have many brands that are like this, um, but it's how much they trust their customer.
Right.
When you say, "I did not receive this package," or "it was late," they never ask for a proof. They trust
Right.
you. And I think this is so strong because I'm pretty sure when you do that too often, they start asking for some proof. But
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure they know what is the normal frequency. And if you don't feel that you are going too far or doing it that too much, they just trust you. And I think this is also super empathy and trust. Is super important when you want to create a long-term relationship with your customer and loyalty with your customer.
Lucy, that sounds like someone who may have tested that trust bridge, saying that. Right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitively.
yes. So, Lucy, talk to me a little bit about we've touched on consumer expectations, how they've changed. What do you feel is that what do you think brands have to prepare for today's consumer? Are there expectations that you need to have to match the consumer?
I think the most important thing, what every brand should do and spend as much time as possible doing, is listen to to their customer.
Mm,
Like very often I'm asked like, what do you think should be the area of innovation, the area of focus? And if I have just one advice, is spend time with your customer. Sit down with your customer, listen to your customer, analyze the ways they behave on your website, all
mm,
those things, all those clues the customer are giving you, like you can use them to increase the level of empathy and to really be able to understand what they care for, what they need, what they want to do, what are the pain today. And I really think that the most powerful innovation really comes from your ability to listen to your customer and
mm,
really understand like what they are trying to achieve, and understand how you can help them achieve that faster, and achieve that, I would say, with more joy also, because it's not all about efficiency. It's also about getting some joy and getting some happiness when you
mm.
are doing your daily stuff, so I think like really like practicing your listening muscle when you are a brand is the most important. So through conversation, through analyzing your data on your website, I think it's really like the fundamental of the innovation.
And Lucy, we mentioned a few times on this show in the past McKinsey study that talked about how 75% of consumers have changed the way that they purchase, who they're buying from, how they buy. And naturally, that ties down to first impressions, like you touched on a little bit as well. Um, what, in your opinion, why are these first impressions so important, and how is Content Squared helping with that too?
I think it's always been so important, right? You
Mm,
never get a second chance to do a first impression.
right.
So I think it's true all the time, but it's even more true when you are talking of digital experiences, because while interacting people online, people are less focused. Most of the time, they are doing something else at the same time. So
Right.
it's very fast to lose their attention or to create frustration. The second thing is when you are browsing online, when you are buying online, it's so easy to switch and to go to a competitor. It's
Mm,
not like you have to do you it's not like you have to take a cab for 10 minutes or take the subway for 20 minutes, like everything is here on your computer. So I think
right.
the less good focus, because you don't control the environment of the user, plus how easy it is to switch, really explain why it's so important to to help your customer in the very first second they arrive on the website,
Mm,
and helping your customer in the very first second is really about like helping them achieve what they are trying to achieve. If they are
right.
here by chance because they liked I don't know, they liked the content they seen on Instagram, you need to catch their attention, you need to show your DNA. If they are here to buy as fast as possible a product they already know, it's a very different experience,
Mm,
and some of the times they are just here to check an information. So really being able in the first second to have a homepage that is going to help drive and guide them into those different intents is super important.
right.
And another thing that is super important is having a website that works,
Right.
because if you think that you only have a few seconds to convince them, like you don't want to spend those few seconds in loading time, you don't
Right.
want like those 5 seconds of attention to be just spent for the page to load. So I think this is super important. And I think
Mm,
the other thing that is super important is the last impression you're going to do, you're going to make on your customer, because you can have the best experience ever for 8 minutes. If the last minute, the ninth minute is horrible, your customer are going to only remember this last emotion, this
mm.
last feeling they had. So first impression, but also last impression are super important, I think.
Yeah, I can't imagine. With the first impression, like I was telling you in the beginning of today's segment, I am a hard consumer. Right? I'm not someone that I don't earn loyalty. I don't stick around for any reason. I'm very irrational, which is what Richard Thaler found with his study years back. So it's so interesting to really be hyper focused on that. Naturally, your digital presence is the first touch point since everyone was stuck at home.
Yeah,
These habits are sticking. People are
yeah,
sticking with it as their new way of purchasing. And the unfortunate thing that we see, Lucy, is that so many brands and retailers still have a very archaic way of engaging that first time or ensuring that the web presence is different for a certain buyer or visitor than it would be for others. So there's a lot of opportunity left. And naturally, it sounds like
definitively, yeah.
Content Square can help with that, right?
Yeah, and what we see is that traffic is skyrocketing, conversion is skyrocketing, the revenue online is skyrocketing. Like if you talk to most businesses, they've done in 1 year their 3 years plan, 4 years plan, 5 years plan online, right?
Yeah.
But what is not skyrocketing is NPS and digital happiness. When you
Mm,
ask people how happy they feel browsing online, on when you ask them how likely they are to recommend the website, you would see that those indicators at best were flat and in very often decreased. And I
mm,
think it's another way to say what you just said, like yes, people are browsing more, are buying more online. They switch their way of doing, but if you're not able to create great experience, to analyze how people are behaving browsing to improve this experience, they are just going to become less and less loyal. And who
right.
can blame them, like if every time you interact with a brand it's frustration,
Right.
who can blame you to change brand every time, so I think it's really something that is now massive challenge, but also opportunity for brand to create more stronger connection with our customer by creating better experience,
Mm. Lucy, I know we're almost at the time for the day, so I'll make this quick. But I had one small question I wanted to ask you. Being the CPO of a major CX leader and innovator, and it doesn't have to be about today's topic, but using your crystal ball looking forward, is there any innovation or trends or things that you're keeping your eye on as it pertains to CX that you're fascinated by?
I I
And I
don't know
threw
if
this out of nowhere at you, so I
yeah, no,
apologize.
I think it's a very interesting question. I don't know if I am fascinated by it, but what I like, I think the key topic for the future is omnichannel. And it's
Mm,
realizing that a customer, when he is interacting with your brand, like for him, it's the same to be on the social network, on your website, on the app, in the store,
right,
And so like really thinking of the flow of the customer and really realizing that for him all those touch points are the same and they
right,
really need to work together, and you really need to make sure that your experience is taking into account all those touch points, and that those touch points are not in competition but they
mm,
are really complementary. For
right,
me, it is the future, and I think in a way it's fascinating
right.
because it's not that easy to do,
Yeah.
but at the same time it's so natural, like it's so I think this is what is fascinating.
Well,
um
I like that too, Lucy. When you think about those with brick and mortar and how they're going to connect the store, I think
yeah,
that real area of untapped opportunity. Because if I go in Walgreens, it should feel like the Walgreens app.
yeah,
It should have that exact experience. So I think
exactly.
that's a big opportunity. I like that. Well, Lucy, it was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us. I do, again, always like to talk to a fellow French company, French born company. But thank you again for the time. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, I think my French accent is a bit stronger than yours, but
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. Mine might have a bit of a New Jersey, New Yorker
yeah,
tone
I
to it.
see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Yeah, it was a pleasure to talk with you today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lucy. And of course, keep an eye on the Content Square team. They just came off of a Series E of 500 million. This was Lucie Buisson, the CPO, Chief Product Officer from Content Square, tackling igniting the customer journey with conversation and analytics. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next Tuesday.